If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.
Good evening and welcome to episode 398 of Picks and Ponies right here on the HHH Racing Podcast. I am your proud host, Howard Kravitz. Thank you very much for joining us tonight as we are going to cover a big, very big, not late pick 5, but all stakes, 5 races, all stakes, 4 of them graded at Tampa Bay Downs. It is their big day of the year. It is the Tampa Bay Derby and the return of Chancellor McPatrick. But hold your horses, folks. Literally, he is not the only Chad Brown that is going to be running on Saturday, because Chad Brown is bringing an armada, including many very good turf horses. And we're going to be covering all of the stake races on a big day at Tampa Bay. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button on the bottom right-hand side of the screen, the notification bell on the top right, and smash that like button below the video player on YouTube. We are very close, ladies and gentlemen, very close to 5,000 subscribers, but we're not there yet. We need your help. We are literally less than 80 subscribers away from 5,000. It's been one of my goals for a long time in this podcast, and so we'd really appreciate if you are not a subscriber, please hit the subscribe button. That is the red rectangle at the bottom right-hand side of the screen on YouTube. And get your friends, neighbors, family members. Just have them subscribe. It costs nothing. It just brings everyone more attention here to the podcast. We greatly appreciate it. You just listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Anchor. The tip sheet. How about 3 winners last week on the tip sheet, including some really nice prices. 7-2 on Beach Bomb. Hello. We'll take that. 7-2 on another horse. Locked wasn't very creative, but Locked won by 8.5 in the Big Cap, the biggest margin ever in the history of the Big Cap. So we had some nice winners on that Power Pick tip sheet. And I have some very exciting news about Power Pick tip sheets coming up in April. But I'm going to tease that. I'm going to save that for a little later in the show. We have a great website, hhhracingpodcast.com. All right, we have a lot to talk about, not only about the Tampa Bay stake races, but I got a bunch of notes and things going on in the horse racing world that I want to touch upon. And to help me do that is going to be my co-host from the Saratoga Special and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Mr. Paul Halloran. And people are wondering, where's our Italian stallion, Pete Visco? Paul is a little bit under the weather, but I have some great news. I called the Vatican earlier today. I've got a direct line there. And they said, you have enough Italian blood in you to cover for Pete Visco in the show. So my partial paisan. How you doing tonight, Paul?
Half, 50%.
There you go.
I'm doing great. And yeah, and I have good news too. I talked to the vet. Pete was given Lasix today and should be feeling better tomorrow.
Okay, very good. That is absolutely good to hear. He might have DFS, Paul. Is that the sickness he might have? It's very possible.
It starts to ramp up at this time of year.
People are not familiar with the show, like, wow, does Pete have some disease? No, that is our acronym for Derby Fever Syndrome. We're all very excited about the Derby. Paul, I just got a few quick tidbits. Like I said, I'm going to mention many things throughout the show. The first thing I want to mention right now, however, is what happened over the weekend. We have not had a Horse and Around Monday show, although we will have one coming up that I'm going to talk about. I talked at length about Barnes on this show. I made a bold statement that I didn't think he's a Derby horse. Last week confirmed it for me. Now, I took a bunch of heat on X from some people. Totally fine with that. A lot of people agreed with me also. There is no doubt that Barnes is really good and really talented. He had everything his own way and no excuses going a mile and a 16th. I still don't see it for him in the Derby as a winner. He might make it there. He's going to take a lot of money. I still don't see it, Paul. Journalism, wow. That, to me, that is your clear favorite right now.
Yeah, I think I mentioned when you were talking about it, I may have mentioned that Barnes is going to be very tough in the Jerkins, and I'll stick by that. They may not go all the way back to 7 furlongs, but it is a prestigious race, and there's nothing to say you can't go forward to the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile. If you so, I agree with you. He didn't really do anything wrong,
No.
but you know, he just got beat fair and square, and he clearly, and that was a mile and a 16th, I believe. Howard, am I correct?
Yes.
So, you're talking about another furlong and a half, folks. That's a long way. So,
Yeah.
I hope that they keep him around as a takeout mitigator for those of us who want to bet the race.
I agree.
I think a lot Howard's going to do. We've talked a lot. Bob has, speaking of armadas, he's got his own little Derby armada going. That'll start to flesh itself out. So I think a lot is going to depend on how many other horses he's going to have and what their realistic chances are. Honestly, I think if you see Barnes in the Derby, it's a sign that he isn't that confident in what else he has.
I think that's fair. You assume he's going to have others qualify. We shall see. Let me get to some comments in the chat. We're going to jump right in, Paul, because like I said, we have many things to discuss. First of all, Tom Espinoza is here. Wonder of wonders. I made it early. Great job, Tom. Way to get early, my friend. Yeah, responding to Ralph Conti, Chad looks loaded. Yeah, the Chad Armada is coming out. Praying for good weather from Katie. Sean Kane, what's up, Sean? Good to see you. Mentioned Shards. How about I got to represent 102 buyer for Shards last night, Paul? We all have a small piece of Shards. I tried to convince our good friend Tony Rowell to send him to the Shaker Town at Keeneland going 5.5 opening weekend. I don't want to spoil where they're going to go out of respect, but it does not look like they're going to Keeneland. But that was 24 hours ago, so that was before the number came out. We'll have to see. New person I've not seen. Steve Kislow. What's up, Steve?
Yeah.
Thanks for joining the show.
Will you people please stop talking? He talks about the weather enough on his own. Please don't give him any more goddamn ammunition on the weather.
I will not mention the weather. Well, how about this? He only wants winners. That's all he wants. How about that,
We're
Paul?
with you. We're with you.
Robbie, I did not know this. I wouldn't catch the YouTube documentary Winner's Circle. I've heard about this. Notice our beloved Matt Miller and yours truly on the documentary. Well, now, Robbie, I got to watch it. I've seen it like advertised. I haven't had a chance to watch it. We'll be making sure we do that. Roshan is here. Yeah, Sean was actually there at Turfway for Shards. That's awesome, Sean. Oh boy, Newport Lights has a weather forecast I'm not going to show out of respect to Paul. Let's see, Joseph Mazzola is here. We got Sylvain Paulhouse. Sylvain, no tariffs on this show coming your way. Okay, we'll keep it clean. All right, that's not a political statement, just a ha ha he he. Okay, moving on. Let's see what else here. Rob Capalbo is here. Jim already says he's not feisty. We don't talk about the weather every single damn time, right? That's all it is. Very simple. Okay, let's jump in, Paul. We got a lot to talk about. Let's go to the late pick 5. Excuse me. I just did it. The all stakes show. Now, it is not an all stakes pick 5. Don't ask me why. But Tampa Bay decided to spread out their. Paul, you got a thought on that already? Early rant? No.
What? Why? Howard, why?
Spread them out. I don't know. No?
Not a good reason. Anyway,
right. Fair enough.
We digress.
All right. Well, it's a great card. I think we can both
It's a great card.
Great card. I think we'd both agree with that. So let's jump in right now. The first stake race, again, this is not the late pick 5. This is just all the stake races at Tampa Bay. Starts in race 5. Let me go ahead and bring up that race on the screen. There's a lot of really nice runners running. And like I said, Paul, the Armada from Chad Brown is going to be in full force, but it starts in race 5, and this is a dirt race. It's the Michelob Ultra Challenge Stakes. It is a grade 3, $125,000 is the purse. A mile and a 16th, relatively short run to that first turn. Older males, you see, it's a field of 8. There are 2 very likely winners according to the morning line, and that is the number 8 Skippy Long Stocking, the slight favorite, or the number 6 most wanted for Cox and Giroux. I'm just going to chalk out here. I'm going 8-6-2. Paul's going 7-6-8. Paul, you're going with Ben Dug. This is a very likable sort for Mott and Pratt coming in from New York, running down South Florida, a place he's never been. This is interesting spotting from Bill Mott here.
Yeah, so before I talk about the race, Howard, I just have a little trivia for our guests in the chat. If any,
Okay.
whoever can name first, who is a horse of the year who ran second in the Challenger to kick off his 4-year-old campaign?
Very interesting. Put that in the chat. Very, very interesting. This is always a good sort of starting point for some
Yep.
horses.
It was a great starting point for him. Yeah, you know what, Howard? I agree with you about the two most logical winners. Maybe they, it's hard to tell what Skippy is going to do, but you would have to think from out there, maybe a little more forward than. I don't read Skippy that well when I play him. He doesn't run, and when I don't, he does. But I think this Pendug is got a puncher's chance here. A really good, a decent second. Got just caught by Krupe, who was too close in the Suburban. Charlestown, he didn't like the 12 turns, so we'll toss that out. And he's run creditable seconds, going a distance at both Churchill and Aqueduct. In this race, he's going to cut back to a 16th. You're going to get Pratt at 5-ish to 1. You do have to beat two formidable horses, but as I say, I think they're both likely. Either one of them is a likely winner, but I don't think unbeatable by any stretch. And I wanted a little price here.
Is Jim Pilar's correct?
He is not.
It is not Curlin. I didn't think it'd be Curlin, to be honest. But good guess, Jim. Try again. There's two horses in this race, Paul, that I've never really been big fans of. One is Pendug, and the other is Skippy Longstocking. Now, people are going to say, Howard, wait a minute. You have Skippy on top. Well, there's reasons. Pendug, to me, Paul, I mean, he can win. I'm going to use him very defensively.
Yeah.
He just feels like he's a horse that needs a lot of things to go his way. I've never seen him like go in and out of spots. He's a little bit goofy. He's talented, but I don't know. His two big wins are loose on the lead. I don't see that happening here. But look, he can win. He's coming off a layoff. It's a interesting spot for them to start Pendug. I don't really know what to make of it. I'm just going to chalk out with Skippy. Now, look, Paul, I think you know, and Pete, that I've never been a huge fan of this horse, but you can't doubt a few things. First of all, Saffie Joseph has done amazing things with this 6-year-old by Exaggerator out of a War Chant mare. This horse has won $3.36 million, and he just spots this horse really well. I mean, take a look at recently, Paul. Okay, let's go back. Charles Hound Classic, very easy spot, did it easily, weak field, right? Before that, he was in the Whitney, he had no chance on that race against Arthur's Ride. And the time before that, he had King's Barnes. After the Charles Hound Classic, he ran very good against Tapatrace in the Wood. And then from the 13 hole in the Breeders' Cup Dirt Mile, no chance there. And then the Pegasus, no chance from the 9 hole against White Abario, who ran a hole in the wind. It just feels to me like, Paul, it's almost impossible for him not to get a good trip in this race. He's going to break. He's going to look to his left. He's tactical. He's as fast as anyone in here, if not faster. He's 2 for 2 at Tampa. At some point, the wheels are going to come off this horse, Paul. But I got to tell you, I don't think it's going to be Saturday. I like him quite a bit here. It's not very creative, obviously. It's 7-5. You probably go ahead.
Okay. Oh, sorry. I thought you were done.
No, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say I get it with the post in the dirt mile, but I don't think he ran at all. Even from out there, he split the field. I get it. So you could say, well, he beat 6 or 7 horses, but I don't think that was a good effort. And I don't think look at it. I know he ran behind 2 really good horses, but what was behind him, I'm not so sure that was a great effort. So again, no surprise if he wins, but could he be feeling his age a little bit like the rest of us? Perhaps. Although I have a 6-year-old too, so horse, not child.
That all being said, this is a major step down in class. I mean, I think you'd have to admit that as well.
No doubt. Yeah, that's correct.
I think most people would have expected me to take Most Wanted because I think a lot of people know that I like the progressive younger horses. This horse is very logical. Paul, my only concern with Most Wanted, who has I think he's got a big year ahead of him, There's speed to his inside and outside, and I'm just not sure he's going to get like a perfect trip. And at 3-2, do you want him, coming off a little bit of a layoff with other speed, other speed in the race? I don't know. Obviously, he can win. I'm going to top 2. Any quick thoughts on Most Wanted or anyone else, and we'll move forward?
And we've talked about this ad nauseum, Howard, but this is not, we're not doing a pick 5, but this, I assume, ends the early one. My point is, if you're playing the caveman ticket, make a decision between the 6 and 8. Please do us a favor and don't double your cost to try to play both of them. Presuming you think one of them is the likely winner. On an ABC grid, I think one's an A and one isn't. I kind of agree with you, though, Howard, as far as Most Wanting. Say, well, 4 for 5, got beat by Rattle and Roll and the Clark, and who's Rattle and Roll's a good horse. But, I think the time form has the 5 going the lead, if I'm not mistaken, Howard.
It does.
So
it does. We should talk about. We can mention the 5.
And it's always a mental struggle with Florent. He obviously can ride.
I
don't want to sound stupid, but there are times when you don't get the trip that you're expecting. Doesn't mean it was the right trip that you were expecting, but you'd like to get it just to see, right? So
yeah.
So we'll see. I think I would be trying to beat at least one of them. I'm going to try to beat both of them, but certainly in an ABC grid, we'll keep them in mind.
Well, it seems like a Patriot Spirit should have the lead. By the way, Hawthorne Derby champion, Patriot Spirit. It just feels to me, Paul, that maybe. Whoops, I didn't want to do that. Maybe Giroux with an outside post is better because it's going to force him to go, as opposed to when he's inside, he has decisions to make. I don't know. I really was looking for a closer in this race because I think there's a decent amount of speed. I just don't like any of them. I mean, I threw El Captain in there as a total bomb in for third only because he's got some back numbers on dirt, but that was a while ago. I have absolutely no idea what to expect of El Captain. I just don't like the closes in this race, Paul. It just feels like someone, up front's going to win here, or at least tactical. Right?
No answers, Howard. No correct answers to the trivia question. It was a good question.
Apparently not. You want to give it? Too hard, apparently. Too difficult.
March 12th, 2022, to start his 4-year-old campaign. Cody's Wish ran second in the Challenger. Predicted by Cody Dorman, who told his parents he's not going to win until I'm there, which happened in the next race.
Boy, I was gonna try to guess who actually beat him, but I don't want to embarrass myself.
He went on to. He was ridden by Luis Saez. Also, trivia: the last time Junior Alvarado did not ride him.
Interesting. Who beat him that day?
That was. Oh God! You think I would know this off the top of my head?
I don't know. You're speaking of journalism. You're the journalist, my friend.
Yeah, okay, and I've written about.
All right, don't worry about it. We can maybe someone in the chat can tell us who finished.
No, it's funny because I actually looked up to see who was on him because I knew it was the last time Junior. Scalding.
Yes, I think that horse wired the field, if I remember correctly.
He was second, then he won. Ironically, the horse who beat him, Scalding, was bred by Godolphin. Anyway,
I might have bet that horse that day. I remember that race actually a little bit. All right, let's get on to the Columbia, Paul.
Columbia.
Yep. Yeah. Chad Brown. Can we talk about that gentleman for a second? I always think that Saturday or the Tampa Bay Derby is sort of his coming out party for the year. It seems like he always launches a bunch of his really nice turf horses on Tampa Bay Derby day. And the reason why, Paul, is because their next start's going to be at Keeneland. And sometimes he likes to get one into him. And so you're going to see a lot of Chad Brown horses today, and a lot of them are being very live. And it's going to start right here in the Columbia, which is race 7. Again, we're not doing a pick 5 here. We're just doing all the stake races Saturday at Tampa Bay Downs. Race 7 is the Columbia, 3:28 local time. This is for 3-year-old males going 1 mile on the turf, 125,000. Field of 9. You can see it right there. It is the return of Zulu Kingdom, who had a nice year last year, including a pretty darn good effort as I rewatched again in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile Turf, 2-1. Second choice is up and comer for some young woman named Cherie DeVoe. Jose Ortiz, 3-1. Let's see where we're going here. Oh, Paul, you should. I cannot believe you got off the Cherie train. I am just absolutely stunned. The world is shocked. I'm going to stick with my girl, Cherie. Future Hall of Famer, by the way, Cherie DeVoe. 4-6-1 is my top three. Paul is going 6-8-4. Paul, I have no knocks against Zulu Kingdom. Your top choice. I have him second. We're going to watch the replay of the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, at least the stretch run. Had a real nice year. I was never like blown away by him, to be honest. Like, I've seen other more impressive Chads, but he could have a big 4-year-old year. And, I'm assuming that Chad's got him pretty cranked up here. He also has early adopter in the race for Tyler, but Pratt is riding Zulu. You would think Zulu is the more likely to win of those two.
Yeah, and I agree with you, Howard. I think the Breeders' Cup race was better than it looks on paper for sure. Running seventh. Took a lot of action in that race.
Yep.
Got beat by a good Euro, obviously.
Up closer than I thought, too, actually. I thought he'd come a little bit further off. He's the 5. I won't interrupt you. We'll just show from the sort of the far turn on if I can get it set up. He's going to be the 5 I'll take a little further back. He's the 5. He's in between horses here, outside of the 1, inside of the 7. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, the dreaded in-between spot that we talk about. Yeah, I agree with you, Howard. Based on his other two races, he was more forward than expected. And, you could say right here, he's certainly got a fine chance. And, yeah, he runs out of steam a little bit. Remember, 2-year-old horse, he's not going to get there. And, he's still running. It's just the cavalry has come. So you'll see he runs 7th, but he's about, I don't know, 3.5 lengths from second or third, 3 lengths from third. So,
sure.
Yeah. And, obviously the layoff, no problem with Chad. And we'll talk another race, Howard. And I know Chad's loaded on this card, but be careful of Gray Emotion, who had been called the Gulfstream until he wasn't last week.
Mm-hmm.
And he has got some ammunition on this card as well that we will get to as we go on. But, yeah, I looked at the other Chad, the one on the rail. And I know Zulu Kingdom won it. Not really sure how great that Pilgrim was. But yeah, I think that this horse won on debut in France before he was, you would think, privately purchased and handed over to Chad. He won at Saratoga after the layoff. He did win that Pilgrim, and we just said that wasn't a bad race. So I think a good spot, and I'll be interesting to see how this horse runs, Howard, because this could potentially be a very, very good turf horse this year. I think we'll have an indication of which way he's going to go in this race.
I believe so, and I put Terry Frank up, who from St. Louis, who predicts 6-9-8. That's one of the things I want to talk about. So I know Terry's watching. How about a shout out to our good friend Terry Frank, who got a second NHC entry just in time 1 week before. He is now double qualified. I think he beat 77 contestants today. Terry, my friend, congratulations, sir. I know we're going to see you in a little over a week. I'll talk about that also briefly here on the show, Paul. But Terry Frank, a second entry in the NHC. Very cool for him. Oh, look who's here. Oldie. What's up, Oldie? Hello, HHH Ream. Wow.
I think he meant team.
He meant team. Looking forward to seeing many of you next week at the NHC. What's up, Oldie? Yes, I'm looking forward to that. My friend, the Equine Edge crew, will be there ready to rock and roll. We got a lot of people in the chat congratulating Terry Frank. Very well deserved. There we go. Well, you know what? Oldie made up for it with the Chicago Cubs logo. The future potential world champion Chicago Cubs of 2025, but I'm probably getting ahead of myself. All right, back to the race. I'm assuming you watched the Reagan's Wit race. I mean, geez, Paul. Reagan's Wit, the number 4. I understand it wasn't the best field. It was not the best field. If you didn't watch the race, although there were 2 next winners. Thermostat came back. Native Runner came back to win. But this horse was just we're not going to show the replay because it's a CDI situation.
Because we don't have 3 hours to find it.
Yeah, exactly. Paul, he did it so well. I mean, Jose rode him with the utmost confidence. This is a authentic colt out of a Sunday break dam, Dainu. And Dainu is a name I know because it's actually a Hebrew name. And Dainu actually means, I've got it written down. Oh, sorry. It would have been enough. In other words, we're happy, we're satisfied, basically, but is the translation. So that's the Dam Dainu. It was also a very famous song for Passover that's called named Dainu. Anyway, moving on. Reagan's wit, Paul, was just super impressive. And he could have won by more. I like the fact that he's in Fairgrounds already. He's in New Orleans. He's been working down there. The sky's the limit. I think Zulu King will be favored. And so I'm going to go with Reagan's wit. I obviously Zulu King in a mix. I have the other Chad. I was a little bit against the speeds with Versus and Dream On. I do want to quickly talk about Revolutionaire, the Clement horse, who to me is a little bit low morning line, frankly. But this is a West Point horse. So when it's West Point and Clement, two groups that, let's just say, I have a little bit of intel on. Peel can take this for what it's worth. I think this is just a starting point for Revolutionaire. I'm not saying that he can't win, so I don't want any hate mail or things next week. Oh, Howard, you said he can't win. This is a nice horse. He's been sprinting. This is a long layoff. I have a feeling this is a race to get him ready for something else. We shall see. I'm a little bit against Revolutionaire. I'm going to use him defensively. Anything else in this race, Paul?
Yeah, no, I hear you. I picked him second. I see it being very plausible that it might be a starting point and he still might hit the board. And I have obviously nothing against Reagan's wit. I think what was most impressive about it, Howard, was, as you said, Jose rode him kind of effortlessly, and he didn't really need to get to the lead by the top of the stretch, but the horse just kind of took him there, didn't it? And then once he did, once he was asked just a little bit, he just opened up. So, it is a tough. It's good news, bad news. The bad news is it's a tough spot to go from maiden into a stakes. The good news is Cherie DeVoe, who spots her horses exceptionally well, sees fit to ship this horse. You were talking about Fairgrounds, Howard. This race is at Tampa. I wasn't sure what you meant.
Oh, I'm an idiot. Yeah, what the hell?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but if someone else said it, I wouldn't argue with them. But
sorry, what was I thinking? I don't. Yeah,
but,
you're right.
But I think that adds to the allure, though, Howard, because she not only is running this horse in a stakes off a maiden, but shipping to do it.
Right. So clearly there's a good intent. The final, math teacher. Let's see. Would not be obviously it's not the final quarter. I think it's 3/8, I believe. I'm trying to think if that would be right. No, actually, I think it's 3/16. I think this is a 3/16 time here in the column, Paul. Look at this final 3/6 times. Reagan Witt in this race. Go watch the replay. 29.81. The next closest one was 31.13. Paul, this horse ran, 1.4 seconds faster in the final 3/16 of a mile than anyone else. And it looked that way. And this horse was just unbelievable in the stretch. By the way, look who's here. Pete Visco, our co-host. No vacation for me, just an old man who can't handle being sick the way I used to. Pete, we hope you feel better. We miss you tonight, but appreciate you jumping on and, of course, catching the show. All right, I think we can move on, Paul, yes?
Yes.
Let's do it. Let's go to race.
Let's get this show in motion.
Oh, you're throwing the puns now at me. I like it.
Although I did pick Chad in this race, but
oh well, that's all right. Race 9. Let's go to it right now. This is within the. I think it's the first leg of the pick 5. Second leg of the. I think it's the second leg of the pick 5. Yeah.
Second.
This is within the pick 5. The Hillsborough Grade 2, $225,000, mile and eighth on the turf for the girls. This is a fascinating race, Paul. Let me take the banner down here. This is a really, really interesting race. And speaking of interesting, wait till you see what I got here. And hopefully I'm going to be right. I'm going 9, 8, 7. Paul's going 8, 1, 6. Paul, we're going to start with you. Saffron Moon was very good last time, beat Venencia, the other Chad, pretty handily. Chad's actually got 3 in this race. I think I wrote this down. Yeah. Chad's got 3. Motion's got 2. And Brendan Walsh's got 2. Cassie's got 2. There's a lot going on in this race, Paul. You're going to go with Saffron Moon, who ran a career top as a 6-year-old last time and did it well. I will show the stretch run as you talk, and I will not interrupt you. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, actually, Howard, this is the third leg. According to the PPs, the late pick 5 goes 7 through 11.
Interesting.
Which would have it end in the Tampa Derby, and that at least makes some sense.
That does make sense. What do you like about Saffron Moon, who also makes sense?
Well, again, to your point, the horse you were just talking about, the Clement maybe didn't have to be, ready. This horse didn't have to win that last race, but to your point, you're going to show it now. This is the horse with the white. He is the
4,
3, I believe. Is he the 3?
He's the 4 right here.
He's the
and
4.
The other Chad is on the inside saving ground, so the 4 and the 6. Here's Saffron.
Yeah, he takes the overland route, and he kind of looks, even though there's a bunch of horses there, Howard kind of looks like a winner every step of the way from the time you showed it. And that's a big margin in a in a turf race. So I just think this horse, again, another 6-year-old, so we got to be careful. But I do think can move forward off the race. I like both motions. You'll see that I picked the motion, one motion second. The other one, I think the price is going to be too low based on the fact that it's IRAD and some of the numbers. And we could talk about, you picked the horse third. We could talk about, give me another. So yeah, I went with, my strategy was, again, to separate the 7 and 8. I'm going to use the 8 and not use the 7.
Okay. I understand that. Here's the pace projector, moderate with the 3 and 10 up close. So Saffron Moon, the 8 gets that trip right there. She could be very tough to beat. I do want to show the time form numbers. And Paul, we've been showing this more on the show, and I got to let everyone know I'm a big fan of time form. I've been relying on it more than buyers, to be very honest, and it has definitely helped me. I'm not saying I don't like buyers. I'm just simply saying I like the time form numbers, especially in turf races. And I do want to show everyone, if you go down to Saffron Moon, who is the 8 in this race, you see Saffron Moon in her last start got a 119. Just keep that in mind, a 119 time form. And we'll come back to that in a moment. And that was a top. It was also a buyer top. So Paul, any concerns there with a 6-year-old with a buyer top? I'm not a bounce guy, but I find it difficult to believe that she will improve off of that, or you think she might, or doesn't need to.
When I'm considering a bounce, Howard, I always look to the work pattern, and I like to see at least 3, frankly, and I see 3 works off of that race. Yep. So it certainly could happen, but I kind of think the more the horse works, the less likely it is to happen. Sometimes you see a horse coming back off one work, and so and again, kind of and in Chad we trust, but this is a modest purchase horse, an $80,000 horse who's earned $339, and it seems like he's kind of playing with house money, a little bit, and will spot the horse where he thinks the horse could be successful, and this is a grade 2 race, but worth $225.
You know who's got opinion on this question? Noah Maher coming strong. 6-year-old a negative, and she's in the form of her life. Come on, whoa! I mean, I'm just throwing it out there. No, I'm not. I've got the horse second. Noah, take it down, boy. Take it easy. Just kidding, Noah. Thanks for joining the show, man. Of course, our wonderful host of Pacific Horse Players. By the way, I should also mention, since I have Noah on the screen here as a chat, great host. I was in Lexington last weekend. Saw UK unfortunately lose to Auburn, but it was my first time seeing a game at Rupp. The atmosphere, Paul, is tremendous. Really knowledgeable fans. Noah, was a wonderful host and got to see Patrick Kunzel as well. Patrick was there also, so got to see some of my young family members, so to speak, in Lexington last weekend. All right, Eternal Silence. All right, strap it on, folks. Here we go. Now, look. First of all, 21 is completely ridiculous. She's going to be 12-1, number one. Number two, not only do I like this horse anyway, I do have a little bit of intel. Everyone, take this for what it's worth. Again, no hate mail. It doesn't work out. Miguel Clement, the assistant for Christoph and Christoph's son, is down in Payson in South Florida most of the winter, Paul, and does a lot of the training down there for the Clements and does an unbelievable job doing it. Let me just give you a 2-word quote from Miguel about the way that Eternal Silence is training. And the quote is, lights out. Now, that is not a phrase you hear very much from the Clement barn. Does that mean she's going to win? I don't know. But when you look at this horse, Paul, yes, she's a little bit slow. Remember the time form in, what was it, 119, I believe, for Saffron Moon?
Yes.
When you scroll down this field and you look at the time forms, again, I'm looking at these green numbers. You see Sparkle Blue, other than the 104, is actually some very good back numbers, right? Avenue, Niel, there are a lot of horses that are about the same here. Okay, She's Fire, probably not good enough. There's Venencia, not that far off, really. And remember, that was a buyer top. The Spaladay, which a lot of people are going to like, is a little bit slow right now, Paul. If you believe in time form, Spaladay is a little bit slow, but she can improve, obviously. The South African horse, who's fascinating to me, also a little bit slow if you believe in time form. There's Saffron Moon, who's slightly better than these. And then you go to Eternal Silence, okay, who does not match up in Europe. But when she came to the United States, she ran a 111, and then even though it was a long layoff, improved to a 113. Now, how far off is that? Not much. I would say maybe a length or two. Okay, so is she a little bit slower? Yeah, but that's why she's 20-1. Now, Paul, I don't know if you watch these replays. I know we got to move on. This Keeneland, her debut in the Valley View, and by the way, she was not trained by the Clements at that time. There were 4 Abundancia, Flashy Gem, Heavenly Sunday, Surge Capacity. There were 4 next out winners, and this was the most ridiculous trip and gallop out I've seen. And people can give me crap about the gallop out. That's fine. Watch the 5. Okay, the 5 is Eternal Silence. First of all, first time in the U.S. Breaks a little bit slow, gets a little bit checked here, and before you know it, Paul, the number 5 Eternal Silence. I mean, look at this. Is already, 8 lengths back already. Okay, let me just take it to the finish. Eternal Silence is back here, has it right here, has a little bit trouble, has horse, angles out. You thought she'd be in the clear, but you could see that horse, then she's got to go back to the inside, and she ran on not like crazy good, but you can see she's just getting her stride in now, okay? And this is what I'm talking about, the gallop out. Sure, she loses by 5? And people are like, Howard, why are you wasting our time? She's 5 lengths back there, right? I think we can agree about 5 lengths. This is what I'm talking about with gallop out. She clearly, Paul, wanted longer and has more to give. Here she is, what it says, 4 or 5. Here she is right here, and she is blowing, not asking. There's no ask here, Paul, at the hand. Blowing by Surge Capacity, maybe a 16th past the wire. Now, to me, that matters a lot, okay? So she had more to give. I'm not going to show, because of time, I'm not going to show the New York race. She was up close. She broke better. She was up close. By the way, that was with Rosario. She was more workmanlike, but she did it just fine. I don't love the layoff situation, Paul, to be very honest, but I trust Clement. If he says she's working well, I trust it. Rosario's back. We're getting a big number. And other than Saffron Moon, Paul, I just showed the time for him. Who are we really scared of at this race? I like this horse a lot. He's an A, or she's an A. Oh boy. She's an A. I'm going to use her everywhere. And she might not win, Paul, but I think she's going to run big. Any final thoughts on what you saw? Have I convinced you or anyone else?
Well, I remember that race, Howard. I don't, like you, I don't miss too many Keeneland races. So I remembered that trip. And I agree with you. I think, and I see some chatter about Joel in the chat, and I'm on the record. I'm kind of a convert. He's gonna have some trips you don't like, but the one thing I wanted to say was this is his second time on the horse. Obviously, that was the horse coming over, and I'm looking now for a story that I wrote when Joel was going into the Hall of Fame, and what I'm trying to find is his agent telling me that I think it was Baffert. One of the top trainers told him no one is better the second time on a horse than Joel, whether it's from workout to race or race to race, and it's in the story somewhere. Trust me, I just can't find it. Anyway, I no issues whatsoever, and the vote of confidence from the Clements. The mile and an eighth stays at the mile and an eighth, which is just fine. Has to get a better trip than that. Is she going to be good enough? Well, we'll find out, but she is going to get a good Sylvain. Yeah.
By the way, no, I told Noah go to Floyd's, Noah, and Floyd's not a sponsor of the podcast, but Floyd's is the where I get my haircut. They do a nice job there. Anyway, I think she's really, really interesting here, Paul. Who also interesting. We're gonna move on. Give me another is like a South African star who's undefeated. I watched some of the races. I think she's going to be closing. But you know what? She's off a long layoff with IRAD. And by the numbers, Paul, and I trust time for him, she's a little bit slower and she's going to get pounded. This horse could be like 9-5. She can win and I'm going to use her. I've got her third. But anyway, this is a really fun race, Paul. I'm very excited to see what happens in a thrilling rendition of the Hillsborough. All right, let's go to the Florida Oaks. This is another really interesting race here, Paul, as we move on to race 10. Race 10, I'm going 9, 10, 7, and Paul's going 9, 11, 6. We're both going to go with the 9 horse in the Grade 3 Florida Oaks. They're going a mile and 16th. This is for the restricted 3-year-old fillies. I actually sort of just skipped over the field. Sorry about that. Let me get to the field. There it is. It is a field of 12. Another really interesting race. My line favorite, our girl, Nitrogen. Boy, was I a fan of her last time, Paul, and I thought she ran to it. 5-2. Again, Cassie. Actually, I think when I was quoting the trainers, I think I was saying that in race 9. I apologize. Motion's got 2 here. Brown's got 2. Brian Walsh has got 2. Cassie's got 2. We're both going with the more line favorite, Nitrogen. But I'll tell you what, Paul, she better have her running shoes on because I think there's some very talented younger ladies in this race.
I agree. And, Mark, Cassie was on with Steve Bick the other day and was talking about, he really liked his 2-year-old turf horses last year, males and females, and is expecting to have some very good 3-year-old turf horses as well as dirt. He's not out of the Derby talk yet, but this is certainly one of the horses he's referring to. This filly by Darley Stallion, Medaglia d'Oro, the elder statesman at John and Bell Farm. This horse is good, Howard. It's trip is going to be interesting. Kane had to come from almost last in the juvenile fillies turf and just couldn't get up. And let's face it, Lake Victoria is a total monster anyway. So that's almost like running second. She's in her own league. And this is the last race you're going to show, I assume, when she comes rolling.
Confident. I mean, ridiculously confident ride right here in the red cap, splits and just blows by these horses. This is a step up in class, but I mean, boy, that is the definition to be a better than look effort because she wasn't even asked. She's right here. She's not even being asked right here, Paul. I mean, this is a hammerlock right here, and they're already into the stretch at Gulfstream. And this is just a means to an end. I think she's going to have a huge year. And I think if she gets the right trip, she is a likely winner here. But again, this is a better field Saturday.
Looks like Jose never picked up the stick either, Howard.
I would agree. Hand right all the way. Jeez.
Yeah. And let's face it. He's obviously riding very, very well. She could be really good. But again, this is a good field, and you you might not be able to overcome a bad trip should it materialize in this field.
Yes. Now, Paul, there's 2 horses on the outside. I have the 10-second, pretty lavish, 6-1 for Motion and IRAD. You have the 11 Celtic Motif for Walsh and Frankie in second. I got to tell you, Paul, I like your thinking because I'm sure you watched the February 9th replay where Capturing barely won, but frankly, I would say got a little bit lucky based on circumstance. Celtic Motif was ridden by Tyler G with a ton of confidence, got out on the turn, but got bumped pretty hard and was sent all the way to the parking lot and still almost won the damn race. My only concern, and I'll show the replay, my only concern, Paul, is that race came back a little too slow for me.
Yeah.
And I also thought Love You Anyway, the gray who finished third, actually ran just as well as Celtic Motif. So I didn't know how to split them up, but Tori's on a very talented horse here.
Yeah. I hear what you're saying, with the number, but the other number I like is 12-1, after 4 to 5. Now I don't think she's going to be 12-1 with Tori coming off this kind of effort. You can go ahead. She's the 7 here.
What's the show? Yeah. So your horse is the 7 in the purple. The gray is the 9 Love You Anyway. And just so everyone know, the gray was already wide in this race and was still wide. Again, the Celtic Motif's going to mean the purple going to get a hard bump on the turn or the top of the stretch. Go ahead.
Yeah, and you'll see it right. Yeah, there you go. And she's moving and had to alter course there a little bit as well, as you can see. And you're not going to think she only loses by a neck, but to your point, Howard, that gray horse stuck right in there, and that horse is 30-1 morning line, owned by Boston Red Sox third baseman Alex Bregman, I might add.
Yes.
You better be the third baseman. They tell Devers, get your ass to DH or over at first or screw. Anyway, I digress. Yes. So I like the price on the, again, outposted a little bit going a mile on the 16th, but you get Frankie and, depending on what happens, this could be, one of those turf races where they bunch up at the end. I think she's going to be coming, as is the 10, the Motion horse. I think definitely has a shot. And, I'm not so sure the other Motion horse is without a shot. It's going to be like 30-1. So I think it's a case out of Nitrogen is just better and is going to win, or it's a lot of stuff can happen.
I sort of agree with you. The 2 right here, this is pretty lavish. I mean, boy, this was a good close too. Now look, these horses have to step up, but they can improve also, Paul. It's not like they're going to run the same number they did last time. And this horse ran down. I mean, blew by the leader and did beat the 1 who was the big favorite in that race. So I thought it was impressive visually. Anyway, it's a really interesting race. We're going to move forward. The Florida Oaks has some talented runners that I think we're going to have some big years. Let's go ahead to the big one, Paul. Let me go ahead and take the banner off the screen and go to here. The big one, of course, is the Tampa Bay Derby. It's a grade 3 and it's 50 points to the winner. The winner pretty much goes to the Kentucky Derby. It's a smaller field this year. It's usually a big field. Frankly, there's always some fillers though, and I want quality. There are some quality horses. It's just a smaller field than I thought. This year's Tampa Bay Derby is a field of 7 led by a very popular horse from last year who sort of ran a clunker in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile, as did many. Number 2, Chancellor McPatrick for Chad. He's also got Hill Road, who's a very interesting horse. Chancellor's ridden by Flavian. Tyler rides Hill Road. Chancellor's 8-5 morning line. Patch Adams, the number 7, for Cox and Drew, who was a serious buzz horse until he ran into some trouble and didn't run great last time in the very famous Sandman race. And Sandman came back to run a credible, but not, I would say, spectacular, I believe, 3rd, as Paul starts nodding his head yes off screen in the Rebel. Let's see who we're going with in the feature. I'm going to go Patch Adams here. I'm going 7-2-3. Paul's going 3-2-1. Oh boy. Here comes the first poo-poo of the night from Paul. I got to say, Paul, I'm going to let you talk first. I had a tough decision with this one. I don't love my pick, but I'm just going that route. Paul, talking about Hill Road, a new acquisition for Chad as of last year. He's been in the barn for a while. Both Hill Road and Chancellor had their own little nicks and issues, which is why they have not started until now. You're going to get a better price on Hill Road. And frankly, he ran a big race. He was the only one really making up ground in the Breeders' Cup Juvenile. The question is, Paul, is he ready for this test today? You say yes.
Well, I think so. And that was an interesting placement, Howard, running in the juvenile, uh, you know, coming off a turf race in which a grade one, albeit, but didn't really run. We could pick her up here. He's the 3, I believe, who's dead last, works his way between here,
Yep.
if I'm not mistaken. In the purple, I love purple.
And here's
he's
Chancellor, by the way, struggling in the green. But go ahead. Here's Hill Road.
Yeah, now he's going to get Rispoli's going to get Hill Road out here, and it's no threat to the winners. But as you said, he really was the only one who closed in the stretch, right? And I think that it's Chad. I don't think the horse is going to be coming from that far back with Tyler on top. Obviously it depends on the flow of the race. We've talked a lot about Chancer. I really, really hope Chancer finishes at least. This is a 100-point race, Howard, right?
No, it's a 50-point race.
Oh, it's a 50, so he's going to have to win. I really want Chancer to get in the Derby. We have our friend Sean Flanagan, who's already promised to come on without technical difficulties Derby week. Massachusetts guy, how can we not root for him? But I don't know. I think I want this price 4-1 versus 8-5. And Howard, I could be wrong, and I'm wrong a lot. Just ask my wife. I'll put her on later. I don't like Patch Adams even a little bit here.
Wow. Why not?
I don't, did have some trouble last race. I thought Sandman, who I liked, you said came back and didn't run that well, or whatever you said. I would say it's beyond that. This horse is going to be bet. Even with Chancer's resume and Chad, I wouldn't be shocked if this horse takes as much money. You talked about all the buzz. People are going to think he's, he race flow wise, obviously there could be a big advantage, right? The main foes are all closers, so I get it. I think Owen Almighty will go from the rail. There's another overrated horse, in my opinion. I don't like that horse either. So, I think the value here. I'm looking for value in this race, and I'm rooting for Chancer, but betting Hill Road.
I totally get it. Let me give everyone at home a little bit of information people may or may not know. First of all, Chad had some direct quotes in an article earlier this week. Chance McPatrick had a flake removed from his front ankle. I'm not sure if it was left or right. That's very minor, but it is, was a surgery, and then had a quarter crack and delayed his progress. According to Chad, here we go again. When I say again, trainer speak, he's probably a work short. Now, I thought Sovereignty was going to be short also, and he won last week in Florida. So take that for what it's worth. Chad also said Hill Road is vastly improving over the last few weeks in terms of fitness, but that he's 1 to 2 works short. Okay, you want to believe that or not? I'm going to let people make their own decision of that. Patch Adams. Paul, to me, this is a very talented horse. Now, when I watched he ran a hole in the wind in November at Churchill. This horse obviously has talent. Is he a sprinter? I'm not so sure. When I watched the Southwest, his start was actually worse than I thought. No, it was not Sandman bad, but he's the 7. He did stumble, and you never know how that's the first time in his career, Paul, that he didn't break great. And it's also, see right there, he took a little stumble. Okay, fine. Nothing major. But you can see this is the first time, Paul, that he ever took dirt. And you are a very smart handicapper, and you've been around a long time. Some horses don't react to that well. You see his head is sort of moving up and down all over the place. You can see there was quite a bit of kickback, Paul. So I think this was a really good experience for him. Now, I wish he got third. You see, he's right here, but he had Sam into his flank sort of, and he wanted to get out. And you see, there was a little bit of bump there. And he could never get comfortable. I don't love the fact that his tactic beat him here for third, but just the trip didn't work out, and a lot of things didn't really go his way. And frankly, he didn't run great. Okay, I will give you that. That it wasn't the most impressive effort. My thought is what you just said, Paul. He's going to get the jump on the two closers. I don't trust the Chad Browns at all today. Maybe their next start. I don't trust them at all. They're both going to take a lot of money. I think Drew's going to be aggressive out of the gate. There is other speed in the race. I'm hoping he's not going to be, 4 wide. That is a concern. But there's speed on the rail. I really think he's quicker than Naughty Rascal, the 6. And I don't know if he's quicker than Brodeur, but he's a million times better than that horse. So in my thought process, Paul, if he breaks like he should, at worst, he's 2 wide or maybe even 3 wide, but in the clear, not taking dirt. And it's not like he's got to go a mile and eighth, Paul. This is a mile and a 16th on a track, as you know, that can be a bit speed favoring. So that's my logic. Take it or leave it. I'm going to be very aggressive with Patch Adams in this race. I could be very wrong. Paul, I don't trust the Chads in this spot. Sorry, I want to do this. I don't trust the Chads in this spot, and I'm not really sure you can get value anywhere in this race. So I figure I might as well try to go with the horse I think it's going to win. I'm going to go Patch Adams. It might be a horrible pick, but I don't trust the Chads. I think it's pretty much that simple today. Going forward, I like both those horses. Final thoughts on the Tampa Bay Derby, and we'll get to some other things.
Yeah, no, I get it. As I mentioned when I talked, race flow wise, and speaking of race flow, if Flo doesn't just gun from out here, then he's got to have his head examined, right? Because as you said, if one of the inside speed horses wants to, get there first, that's fine. But I do think you brought it up, Howard. Since you brought it up, let's see how far this horse wants to run.
Well, Irat's going to go, right? By the way, Owen Almighty,
definitely going.
They already said, Paul, that they are not going to the Derby with Owen Almighty. They're going to turn back after this race, but I understand why they're going there. Why not? You're based at Tampa. You've got speed. You're a nice horse. I mean, why not, right? So, but they are not going to the Derby. I'm just looking at some notes here. Yeah, that's it for our 5 stake races. Real quick, Paul, we'll get to your rant. Monday night, ladies and gentlemen, we are bringing back Horsing Around this Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Not sure about Pete and Paul right now, but I will be hosting, and this will be a show for the NHC. We always every year preview the National Horse Players Championship, which is in Vegas next weekend. Monday night, I'm going to be hosting along with NHC champion Justin Mustari and last year's NHC champion Mike Gillum. So we're going to have both of them on the show, Paul. We're going to talk about the contest strategy. It's fascinating. Even if you're not competing in the NHC, if you like contests or interested in contest play, please join us Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern for our NHC preview show. And the last thing I do want to say, and then we'll get to your rant. Power picks. We have some big news, Paul, that you don't even know about. How about that? You don't even know about this. Come up in April, not only are we going to have Keeneland only power picks, but guess what? Davy Lane, the plan right now, how about some international only power picks? Because he absolutely smashed it out of the park, Paul, with a lot of great winners. It was very popular. I got a lot of positive feedback. So we are going to have more opportunities for you, the listeners and the viewers, to buy some power picks at very inexpensive costs and crush your bets, not only in the United States, but throughout the country. All right, Paul, let's get to your rant here. I did it last week, but now it is time for Paul's rant of the week. Paul, it's all yours.
There was a lot of attention last week, Howard, to a piece that was in the New York Times. It was yet another hit piece on racing from someone who knows nothing about it. I don't want to give it too much time because I don't want to give it credibility. And I will say that, I'm not one of these, I'm a media guy, so I'm not one of these, the mainstream media sucks guys, trust me. And I read the Times and I listen to the Daily, but one of the reasons why people have lost a lot of faith in mainstream media is summed up in this piece of S story. A ton about Yonkers. Oh, breaking news: harness racing at Yonkers sucks. No shit. Okay, a lot. All the stuff about grooms that are being mistreated and underpaid and have to work when they hurt. And one line, but there are many trainers who treat their grooms well. But I didn't talk to any of them because it doesn't fit my agenda. So I don't want to waste a lot of time on it. It's why when people in the industry media take an overly negative take, it kind of ticks me off. And it's not, you could say, well, it's not our job to be cheerleaders for racing, and I'll grant you that. But you know what? That might be a better alternative, having something to cheer for, because we're going to have to deal with this bullshit from morons like this guy, who, when he was an editor at the Rolling Stone, edited had a explosive story about a government official accessing child porn on his computer, and he edited that out of the story to make it look like the guy was being investigated for something else. And that's the credibility of the guy who the New York Times thinks should be this. So shame on the New York Times. I don't give a crap about this moron. I put on Twitter if he would never, ever do it, but should he want to show up in Saratoga next summer, I'll get the Fasig-Tipton Pavilion. We have a debate on horse racing, he and I, okay, and we'll see how effing smart he is then, okay? But until then, shame on the New York Times for doing it, but I really don't care. It's a great card this weekend. I got my Keeneland hat on. I emailed Jim Goodman today. I'm going to Keeneland on May 9th. I'm going to Saratoga March 9th. I'm going to Saratoga on June 5th. I sent an email about my Saratoga 4-star Dave tables for August. So I don't really give a crap about this moron in the New York Times.
Wow. Everyone, a round of applause for Paul Halloran. Yeah, it was a piece of work. Shout out to Ray Pollock with a nice piece.
Excellent. And Frank Angst and the Blood Horse and Andy Cohen. There's been some excellent, well thought out, much more well thought out than the 2 minutes you people just had to listen to.
Paul, I got shamed in the chat, and I deserved it. A host fail. Really quick, Paul's best bets. He's going to race
Hill
11, Hill Road, and then exact 3 with 1-2. He is completely tossing out Patch Adams, which I get it. I could be wrong. I just have a feeling he's going to come back and run a big race. And I'm going to go to race 9, and I really like the Eternal Silence, the Clement horse, who's listed at 20-1 Moyne line. I put a small win bet, Paul, an insanity win bet, but mainly reverse try keys with her in second. People can see it on the screen. If you're listening, I'll read it off. 1-6-7-8 with 9 with 1-4-6-7-8. And then also go 1-6-7-8 with 1-4-6-7-8 with 9. So Paul, basically, I'm putting the horse in second and third, which of course we can't do the NHC, only $2 win and place bets, but we'll talk about the NHC contest on Monday. Hopefully everyone can join us. Paul, final thought, and we will get on to great race plays tonight at 9:30.
I'm going to sneak in a basketball Zoom meeting in between this and great race plays. So
beautiful. All right. Well, I'll let you sneak to that. Let me get to my media assets so I can close out the show. Paul, a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, everyone. It's been episode 398 of Picks and Ponies with my good friend and co-host, Paul Halloran. I have been Howard Kravitz. Thanks for watching. Crush your bets at Tampa this Saturday. Take care, everyone. Have a great night. Bye-bye.
If you have not followed his Triple H horse racing podcast, you're missing out. It's one of the best podcasts in the country.